Welcome to today's moment of grace. Thoughts from his heart to impart grace for your moment. I used to think when Jesus cried out from the cross, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." Boy, I'm so glad he asked, because otherwise the Father would have never forgiven me. But I realized that Jesus said that he only said what he heard his Father say. So when Jesus, hanging on the cross, says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," he's not trying to convince his reluctant Father to forgive sinful humanity. He's echoing what he's always heard from his Father in the Spirit from before all eternity. Forgiveness is not something that had to be coaxed out of God, as if God needed a blood of Jesus blindfold to look in my direction. Jesus doesn't protect the Father from seeing me. Jesus is what the Father sees about me. See, compassion flows from what we know. The Pharisees plotted and planned exactly what they would do to eliminate Jesus from the scene. Once Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, they said to themselves, "We've got to put an end to this Jesus, because if we let this go, they're going to take away our temple." How ironic that the very thing that the Pharisees built for God was the very motivation for them to actually kill God. So how in the world could Jesus say, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing"? Jesus knows something about you and I that we don't know about ourselves. When we act contrary to the nature of God, when we sin, we are actually proving that we don't yet know who we are. Forgiveness flows out of what we know, and the wealth of understanding that we have is what births compassion. How in the world do you find compassion for someone that victimized you? It starts with an unveiling of the Father's opinion of who you are. And your behavior can never change what God knows to be true about you. The truth about you, my friend, is God. Today's moment of grace is an invitation for you to begin your journey down the road of forgiveness, of forgiving yourself. As long as we have our hand over the throat of whoever we perceive as our enemy, we aren't really free. The throat that hand is really around is our own. To the degree that we choose bitterness and unforgiveness, we are the ones that are suffocating. When we hear the news that God has forgiven us for every single thing we've ever sinned against love, past, present, future, it liberates us out from under that heavy weight of the fear of punishment. There is no fear in love, for perfect love casts out fear, because fear has to do with the tormenting thought of punishment. Anyone who still fears has not been made perfect in love. We love him because he first loved us. I like to call enemies pre-friends. God told David in Psalm 23, "I prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies." The reason there's a table set is because it's only a matter of time until your enemy sits down and eats with you in friendship. We were the enemies of God. God was never our enemy. God was never against you. Paul tells us in Romans 8, God is for you. And God is unchangeable. God has always been for you. We were his enemy. And when we placed God on the cross, when we murdered God in our blind darkness, out of our great betrayal, he issues his forgiveness to us. "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." Forgiveness flows out of the cross of our deepest wound. Aren't you glad today that every time you've ever chosen bitter unforgiveness, you actually don't know what you're doing? You're proving that you're acting contrary to your design. I just want to tell you, I'm so proud of you. I know how hard it is to let go of that pain, because sometimes after we've been sinned against and we've held on to that right to be offended, and we hold on to that for so long that we are terrified at the thought of letting that go because we don't even know who we would be anymore apart from that unforgiveness. I want to invite you today to let go of that old unforgiving identity and to embrace forgiveness. Let yourself be loved in your deepest pain. And then, just like Jesus, your scars will become the proof of your forgiveness instead of a license for bitterness. Please, before you go, would you subscribe to this channel and comment below about how this moment of grace spoke to you today? Thank you for joining me on this moment of grace today. Thoughts from his heart to impart grace for your moment.